All right, so we're recording. Today is day one of our sales training. We're going to have 2 weeks. Sandy, a lot of this is going to look familiar to you. We're going to have 2 weeks of sales training, and then 1 week, hi guys, and then 1 week of sales Q&A, and then we're going to dive right into marketing. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And let's get that squared away. And can somebody just give me a thumbs up that you can see it and it looks good? All right, perfect. Okay, so I have done a lot of work in the sales field, starting with my own business that I had almost, over 10 years ago now. I've gone through tons and tons of sales training, and what I've done here is taken everything I know and everything that a dear friend of mine, Dick Chilton, who has been in the sales industry for over 50 years, change maker. And we called it the change maker specifically because this is a system that is the key to lasting change, right? You want to change, and all the businesses you guys are in, you are creating change. And that's why we've called this system the change maker, because it truly will change your life, because you're going to start making awesome sales, and will change the life of your future clients because they're going to come on board and work with you. So what we're going to do is take this down into 2 lessons. Lesson 1 is more about the fundamentals behind the change maker, what you need to do to build the foundation internally. And then lesson 2 will take you through the specific steps, and we'll get through that next week. So today we're going to focus on lesson 1, which is becoming the change maker. Now, there are some fundamental mindset things that have to be in place in order for sales to work for you. I'm not going to get into the specific mindset tools that obviously you've all been through. I'm going to speak specifically from a sales mindset perspective. So what does it take to be the change maker? Number 1, you need a strong sales mindset. Number 2, you need a reproducible process. You need something that's going to work over and over and over again. You just do the same steps like clockwork. Not only does that make it easier for you in terms of developing your own sales technique, but you can teach other folks to do the same sales process as well. Practice. You must practice, and practice some more, and practice some more. The key to becoming a strong salesperson is to truly practice the steps that I'm going to go through over the next 2 weeks. And then finally, the interpersonal skills. The skills of listening and your body language and your speaking is hugely important when it comes to becoming a change maker. When we talk about sales, we talk about a specific character development triangle. You know, the bottom of the triangle is where your education comes into place, where we need to learn. We've got to learn the process. And what's great about this change maker system is it is broken down into specific steps. And we're going to take those steps and teach you the steps step by step so that you can practice each step and learn it and truly become masters at sales. Once you've learned the steps, the next component is to reinforce and to comply. That's where the practice comes in. You're going to need to practice, and we're going to give you different ways to practice the system through imagination theater, through visualization, through role play, through recordings. Practicing is going to be a huge part of developing your sales acumen. And then finally, mindset. It's at the top of the pyramid, but it's the most important component of sales. It's your belief system. It's what you truly believe you're going to do for folks in the world. It's internalizing the fact that what you have is the best out there, and the person sitting in front of you will only benefit from buying what you have to offer. So again, building the strong sales mindset system is an intellectual process that must be built on slowly and methodically. We're going to start with that sales mindset because, again, it's the most important component of the sales process. We have to know that what we're doing is worth what we're doing. Why is it so important to have the sales mindset? Well, number one, selling is about you. When you are in front of somebody, especially in terms of what it is that you all are trying to sell from your service standpoint, the most important thing that's coming across the table is you. You are selling you. They're buying into you. So you have to understand that it's you that is the most important part about the selling process. They're going to buy you first, and then they're going to buy the product or service. They don't like you, forget it. It's not going to work, right? If they don't trust you, forget it. They're not going to buy from you. If they don't know you well enough, they're not going to buy from you. They're going to buy you first, and then the product or service. So you must always keep that in mind. The entire approach to your sale is not going to do any good if you don't believe in what you're selling, and you must believe in the value of what you're selling, okay? You have to value yourself, you have to value your product, you have to value your service, and you have to believe that it will change the world. If you don't have that belief system in yourself, you're not going to be able to sell to anybody. You have to believe in you first, because remember, you are selling you. Okay, the second part is the reproducible process, all right? There's no need to reinvent a wheel, okay? We are giving you, in this ChangeMaker system, a proven, reproducible system, okay? It gives you opportunity for improvement because you're always going to be practicing, you're always going to get it better. But remember, if you don't follow the steps as we're giving you the steps, you're going to get all confused in your practice and you're not going to be able to refine it like it needs to be refined. So the reproducible process is so important because, again, it allows you to practice a consistent product, and it allows you to train others to sell a consistent product. And then finally, the practice piece, all right? You must be intentional about your practice. The success or failure of your sales is going to be totally dependent, and I mean totally dependent, on the amount of time and effort that you practice. We've got folks that have gone through this training and they've never done anything, and they're still not making good, solid sales. We've got folks that have taken this seriously, and they have absolutely practiced in all the manners that I'm going to show you how to practice, and have made differences. They've made huge ticket sales. They've sold large products and service times, lengths of service. It's the practice that's going to be so important to being successful in your sales piece. We're going to use role play for practice, all right? You can do it live with a partner, you can use a recorder or video, and you can use visualization. All three of these are important, okay? The immediate feedback that you get from a partner is very important and very valuable. So you're going to want to do some role play with partners, and the partner can be anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. Recording or a video, you know, I would fathom a guess to say that not many of us really know what we sound like or what we look like when we're actually going through the sales process, which is why having video or using a recorder is key, because that'll give you immediate feedback on to yourself of what you sound like and what your mannerisms are, what you might or you know a lot. You know, it'll give you a true picture of what your sales process looks like. And then, of course, the visualization. The imagination theater is huge, and we're going to get into more of that here in a little bit. The other thing about your practice is you have to be intentional about it, all right? Just like everything else we've talked about and systemizing your day and creating balance in your life, the practice for sales has to be intentional. Don't assume you're going to do it because you think you're going to do it. Seriously, take the time to block it out on your calendar. Make sure that whatever practice partner you have or tools you're using are available to you, and block out the time on your calendar to intentionally practice through the process. Okay, we're going to talk about imagination theater, and Napoleon Hill is an awesome author. I hope you've all read his books. I actually have a recommendation from him at the end of this lesson, but whatever the mind of man can achieve and believe it can achieve. and we've all heard this, we've all learned about the imagination theater in our mindset practices and our mindset tools, our 6-pack. We're going to even use it here. Practice in the imagination theater is so important because all of our successes and failures are going to be determined by how we see ourselves now and in the future, right? Once you visualize that end, once you set the target, you're going to be guided to that end. This isn't anything new to you guys, but I do want to reiterate that just as we use imagination theater and other aspects, using it in part of your sales consultation practice is going to be a huge help to you. Okay, so what we want to do, there's a great book out there called Psycho-Cybernetics, and in it, Maxwell Maltz talks about entering the theater of your mind. Very much the visualization process, very much the imagination theater. It's what we want to do from the sales perspective as well. Like I mentioned, we're going to go through the specific steps of sales. We're not going to go through all of them today, but I'm going to ask you to start visualizing the first step that we're going to go through today, or actually the first 2 steps that we'll go through today. The way to do that, again, find a nice quiet place, sit back, imagine the theater in front of you. It's just you and the theater and the screen. You're going to start going through every step of the sales process with every type of client that you have sitting in front of you, right? If you're doing it from a fitness standpoint, go through all the different scenarios of the fitness clients you might have. If you're doing it from a mindset component, go through all the different scenarios of a mindset prospect that you might have. And as you're going through the steps, see yourself successfully making the sale with the exact product or service that you want. So for example, if you have just going to use, for example, a larger overweight person that needs 12 months of training plus mindset support, right? You're going to go through the steps, and at the end of it, you're going to see yourself making the sale of the highest program you have offering to this person who needs a lot of support and help. And just continually go through that practice in your mind, work through every scenario, make it a habit. And obviously, as we know, through visualization, imagination theater, we are making the end result what we want it to be. Oops. Okay, this is from Mindset Level 1. The mind or nervous system does not know the difference between a thought and a real experience. Remember, the mind will guide you as if you had actually done all of those consults in your mind because you've been training yourself as to what reality is for it. And the reality is we're going to make these sales. Reality is we're going to close the big ticket items. Reality is we're going to have over an 80 or 90% close rate. We're teaching our brain what the new reality is in terms of sales. All right, we've created a practice tracker for you. I'm going to load this up into the Facebook group as a file, and we want you to use this, all right? Track your practice. Put it in your calendar. Keep this beside you when you start doing your practice. Give us the date, the type of practice you did, how much time it took, how much time you actually practiced, and your notes. What went well? What didn't go so well? What do you feel a little bit shaky on? What do you feel great on? Right? What do you intend your first sale to look like after using the ChangeMaker process? This is important because it's going to reinforce the fact that you're doing this tracking. We can keep you accountable to it, but it's also going to make sure that you're doing the practice that's necessary. Okay, the next big thing that we need to focus on in terms of becoming the change maker is interpersonal skills. And this is so important, right? Because rapport building and how you come across and how you perceive the person sitting in front of you is another key component to a successful sale. There's 3 components: listening, your speaking or enunciation, and your body language, right? Remember, in anything that you do, whether it be sales or whether it be your service offering or your relationships, everything in life is depending on how you relate to people, how your state of mind is, and what your beliefs are. right? So it's so important to make sure that you're putting forth your best foot forward when it comes to these interpersonal skills. Especially so with selling, right? Selling is not just about speaking to somebody and order taking. Selling is an advanced form of communication, and it requires use of all of your senses. You have to be aware of everything that you're doing, and you have to be aware of everything that's going on with your prospect. And the most fundamental piece of this communication is how well you listen. And not only in selling, but in life. Listening, and I get on my soapbox when I talk about this listening component so much, because listening is the most important thing that you can learn how to do in all aspects of your life, especially in the lines of business that you guys are in. You have to be good listeners. And listening is equally as important in the selling process as anywhere else. Okay, so what do we need to do in order to listen actively? There's a lot to listening. It's not just about hearing somebody. It's about concentration. It's about hard work. It's about patience, right? It's about being able to interpret others' ideas and summarize what they're saying, not what you think or you want them to say, but what they're actually saying. And it's also able to identify the nonverbal communication in the body language. All of this is so important when it comes to listening, and things that I encourage all of you to become very good and strong at all through your days, regardless of what it is that you're doing. The price of poor listening, well, if you're not listening, you're damaging your relationships. And if you're not listening with your clients, you're going to lose your clients. If you're not listening in your sales consult, you're not going to make the sale, right? You're damaging relationships. You're deteriorating trust. You need to use the foundation of listening to learn everything that you can about the person sitting in front of you. All right, so let's go through some questions to ask yourself to understand if you are actually listening effectively. And we're going to kind of do this backwards. Are you limiting your ability to listen effectively? Number one, are you doing something else while the client is talking? What are you all doing right now while I'm talking? Are you listening with everything? Are you distracted by notifications coming through on your computer or your phone? Are you looking out the window, right? Are you doing something else while the client is talking, or have you given them your undivided attention? That's so important. Are you already thinking of your next question, right? I see this happening so many times, and I do it myself. You ask a question, and without even understanding what the response of the question is, or really listening to the response, you're already thinking about what your next question is going to be. You're missing out on a lot when you do that, because you don't know what follow-up and what great nuggets you could learn from this person based on what their answer is. So make sure that you are not already thinking of your next question. How difficult is it for you to stay quiet? And this is a big one too. Do you feel a need to speak over silence? Do you feel a need to interject, right? Do you feel a need to interrupt? Do you feel a need to make noises and hem and haw, yeah, right? Or can you literally just stay quiet and listen? Do you practice selective listening? I laugh because I've been in many relationships where selective listening is huge, right? Do you only hear what you want to hear? Do you make a judgment on somebody sitting in front of you, and based on that judgment, hear what you think you should be hearing? Are you selectively listening? And then, are you aware of the message that the client or prospect is sending apart from their words, right? So a lot of times what they're saying isn't true. And by picking up on other body language components, you're going to be able to understand if what they're really saying is truth. And based on that, you're going to want to address that and do some more follow-up questioning as well. Do you listen through filters? Okay, again, this is part of our selective listening. When you listen through a filter, you hear what you want to hear based on your experiences or beliefs. So we've learned that again also through our mindset training, right? Make sure you're not listening based on your stories. You need to listen based on what they're telling you. Exactly believe in what they're telling you. If you're listening through filters like we talked about before, are you passing judgment on them because of their age, their success, or how they look? When you do that, you're building a wall between the person, right? You're blocking clear and open communication. You're invalidating them based on what you perceive or what your past experiences or beliefs are, and you're not openly allowing them to be free and trust in you. So be careful about listening through filters. Okay, now on the positive side, what do we need to do to become an effective listener? First of all, always give your undivided attention. Never interrupt, right? We always use the 3-second rule, right? Ask a question, let them talk, pause for 3 seconds, or let there be a pause for 3 seconds, and then continue on. Make sure they're done. Never interrupt anybody. Be present. Always be present. Look at them directly in the face while they're talking. Turn off all the distractions. Make sure that anything that might happen on your phone or your computer or a door or anything is shut down, because you need to give them your undivided attention. Make the client feel heard, okay? Truly show empathy, show interest in them. You know, when you're looking at them directly, when you're giving them undivided attention, you're starting to build trust, okay? You're showing sincere interest in them. And it's important, and we're going to talk about this a lot, it's important that they start to trust you. They need to know you, they need to like you, they need to trust you. That's when you're going to make the sale. Listen for what is not said. This goes back to don't always think about your next question without listening to the answer of the current question, because there's a lot of information that can be gained by asking the follow-up question and for listening for what is not being said. Don't rebut, okay? Always pause before replying and continuing, and make sure that the consult that you're doing is truly about them and not negating what they're saying, or not doubting what they're saying, or not rebutting what they're saying. And finally, again, listen for information, right? There's a lot of information that needs to be gathered, because you're going to use all of this information throughout the entire sales consult. So you want to make sure that you're gathering as much information as you can. I always have a clipboard. You know, I'll have my questions outlined on that clipboard. I'll have whatever pre-qual or pre-information I have for the client, and I take notes. I absolutely take notes. Okay, the second component of the interpersonal skills is the speaking, right? Your voice, right? You want to make sure you're choosing the right words, use the right voice inflection, and make sure you enunciate. No mumbling, right? We don't want to just mumble and ask our questions like this, because it doesn't really mean that we're really interested in what they're saying. You don't want to do that. You want to be careful about, it's funny that this comes up, because my daughters are now in the recruiting process for college. And so they're talking to a lot of college coaches, admissions officers, and they have habits of answering questions with yeah, right? That just doesn't come across as a very professional speaking language. So use the right words, use words, right? Use the voice inflection. It helps to show that you're really caring about them, and enunciate everything. All right, body language, so important. Body language is another key component to relating to your prospect. Eye contact, we've talked about already. Look them directly in the eye. Facial expressions, remember, they are watching you just as importantly as you are watching them. So make sure that your facial expressions are not showing what you might be thinking inside, like, oh my God, rolling your eyes, or if they say something, you just kind of like give them a, oh, are you serious kind of look. watch your facial expressions. The same with your gestures, all right? Posture and stance, space relationship, all of this is just as important in the listening and the speaking component in terms of making the sale. And again, developing the know you, like you, trust you foundation. Here's a guy who's expressing a great overall look. He's got a trimmed haircut, he's clean shaven, he's smiling, you got a sense of confidence, he's dressed well, his firm handshake, he's up tall, he's not slumped over, right? It's just good body language that he's presenting to his clients. The other thing in terms of space relationship and posture and stance, you always want to be beside the person. Don't put something in between you. No desk, no computer, nothing. Come around, either sit on a couch together or have two chairs together. And your posture and your stance, can kind of lean in. You might, if you feel, you can tell pretty quickly how they are with personal space. You might, reach out and touch them on the arm or the leg or whatever. That's all important. But key is nothing in between, no barriers. Don't create a barrier between you and your sales, your prospect. Oh, here we go. Here's some other ways to improve your body language. Smile. Just smile all the time. Nothing beats a warm smile. So always remember to smile. Keep an open space. Don't fold your arms. Don't put something, here, a clipboard here. Keep an open space before your upper torso. Eye contact. Always establish that connection. Keep the eye contact going. Don't fidget. Don't take a pencil and go like this, right? No tapping. Don't do that. Don't get your legs shaking, right? Don't jiggle in your seat. Be comfortable and relaxed in your space. This number 5 I never knew, but when resting on your hands, keep the insides of your hands faced outwards. Just makes you feel more open. Minimize the distraction. So like we just said, the tapping of the pencil, the drumming of the fingers. I sometimes, when I'm a little nervous, I have this habit to kind of pick at my nails. You want to limit that. My daughter does this. When she gets nervous, she twirls her hair. Incessantly twirls her hair. So you want to be conscious of the nervous behaviors that you may have. Slow down, okay? If you think you're talking too fast, you are. If you don't think you're talking too fast, you probably are. So slow down. Just consciously make an effort to slow down. Be inclusive in your actions. This is what I was talking about before. Make sure, again, that the physical distance is comfortable. Don't put any barriers in between you and your consult. And you can do gestures towards the other person. Just make sure that you understand their personal space barriers, which we'll get to once we talk about rapport building. Be open with your emotions. When I was doing sales for my fitness business, I would cry. I would have some people in front of me. Of course, I'm a crier, but I would absolutely have some people in front of me that were truly sad. And they'd start crying, and then I'd start crying. And then guess what? The sale was made, right? I wasn't crying as a method of making the sales, but I was really showing empathy and showing my true emotions. And they connected with me for that. Right? So don't be afraid to show your emotions, all right? As long as it's not in a negative way. And then pace yourself. So if you're with somebody who is slow, speak slower. If you're with somebody that you can tell they're a little tense and uncomfortable and want to protect their personal space, protect their personal space. So kind of mirror what the other person is doing so that, again, they learn that trust component with you. Okay, so those are the components of the mindset pieces and the foundational pieces that you need in order to be a successful salesperson. Now we're going to get into the actual change maker steps, all right? So all those pieces that we just talked about are things that you need to master before you even start making any sales or doing any sales consults. Then we're going to get into the actual steps. The first one is to build the foundation. Then we get into discovery, We talk about building value and then offering the solution. 4 simple steps, but each equally as important, and they must be followed in the order that we're going to teach them to you. We're going to go through steps 1 and 2.5 today, because discovery is actually in 2 components, which we'll talk about. So remember, like I just said, each step has a unique purpose and can be practiced individually, which you will be doing because I'm not going to teach them all at once. So we're going to practice each step individually, and then it blends into this great selling system that you'll have. Okay, so building the foundation, number 1, like we've already talked about, you have to build the know you, like you, trust you foundation. You have to sell yourself first. If they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. If their first impression of you stinks, they're going to walk away. And you're going to know in the first 5 seconds whether you've done that or not. So build that know you, like you, trust you foundation. You're going to do this by building rapport and comfort. And always remember, you're selling you first. So you need to put your best foot forward. This is so important to remember, right? The people skill, and this is what we've talked about in terms of your listening skills and your body language skills and your speaking skills, is the most difficult, but it's also the most important, okay? The first impression is made within the first 1/10 of a second of somebody meeting you. The minute they walk in that door, they've made an impression. They've made an impression based on how you're dressed. They've made an impression based on how your hair is cut. They've made an impression based on how your body language is. They've made an impression based on your hand check. They have made an impression already, okay? Then in the first 5 seconds, they've developed a nonverbal message, right? So they've heard you say something, and that first impression is built based on the message that you've given to them just by meeting them. And then we get into the actual rapport building, right? So if you don't put that awesome first impression first, you're going to have to do some damage repair. Okay, but the actual rapport building is where you can do that, and it's so important to do that rapport building. So how do you do that, right? First of all, the minute you meet that client, the second you meet that client, you stand up, you shake their hand, and you say hello, and you smile. Then you start to talk, right? Make them feel comfortable, get them talking, find common ground. It's the weather, or did you watch the game last night, or what about Wimbledon, or can you believe this Pokemon Go thing, which is a huge thing right now, right? Find common ground, find something to talk about that gets them feeling comfortable, that you can relate to, that connects with them. And all the while, be sure that you're smiling, always smile. Do a firm handshake, okay? It's important. That first touch is very important. Make sure your appearance is up, right? The thing about the professional appearance, and we're going to talk a little bit about this in a little while, but I'll address it here too, is, a lot of what is happening in today's world is you're being introduced to these folks through social media. You may not know them, but they're going to know you. So what you want to make sure that you're doing when you first actually meet them, whether it be live or whether it be a Zoom call or a video call, which you can absolutely do, make sure that you are the same person that you are in the videos or in your social media. Okay, don't present them with somebody that's completely different, because that's not what their expectation is. They're expecting to see you, the you that you've already put forth to them. So be consistent in that manner. Be well rested and mentally ready. I mean, it's time for you to get on stage, right? It's time for you to go into your theater and demonstrate everything as you visualized it. You're on stage again, so you must make sure that you're well rested and mentally ready. Be authentic, be yourself. And this is what I was just talking about. Remember, you started building this relationship already through your marketing, whether it be your email marketing, whether it be your social media, whether it be a workshop. Somehow they already know you, even though you may not know them. So you need to continue to be authentic and to be yourself. Okay. First 5 minutes of the sales consult, whether it be live or whether it be on a video call, is this know you, like you, trust you foundation. It's the rapport building, and it's the most critical. If you come across in a manner that's not worthy of them or they don't like, you're going to need to fix it, right? So I would not start the next step of the sales process if you have any inkling that the rapport is not there. And you'll pretty much know right away. You'll know whether you're going to make the sale or not. If you can't fix it, you're not going to make the sale. Okay, next step is discovery. And there are 2 stages to the discovery phase. The first stage is the probing, and the second stage is awareness. All right, we're going to focus on the probing stage today because it is difficult. All right. All right, what does probing help you to do? Probing helps to establish your credibility and expertise. It creates value in the eyes of your prospect, and more importantly, it gives you the opportunity to assess and understand the prospect and then to do the same for you. All right, probing is basically question gathering. This is your information gathering stage. This is where you're going to find out as much as you can about the prospect so that you know what you need to do to help them. This is where the listening skills are going to be crucial to you, right, in this probing stage. The one thing, I don't care if you don't remember anything else, I do care, but the one thing that's important about the probing is to use the open-ended question. You need to get really good at asking questions. And the best way to do that is to use the open-ended question. And the open-ended question is a question that cannot be answered with a yes, a no, a fine, or a okay. Because that just shuts down your conversation. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to have the open-ended question always. The open-ended question is a question that requires the other person to share an idea, an opinion, an insight, a thought. You're gathering information from them. And if you're not using the open-ended question, you're not going to get any information. You're not going to be able to help them and show them value and explain to them how your service is going to meet their needs, because this is what you're doing. You're trying to identify their needs and understand their problems. So always use the open-ended question. Okay, so what is an open-ended question? How do you use an open-ended question? Well, that's simple. There's 4 really good ways to start with the open-ended question. What, where, when, why? What I encourage you to do is to very consciously make an effort to use these 4 frameworks for your questions all day, every day, in everybody that you're talking to. If you meet somebody in the coffee shop, oh, where did you get that from? Oh, what are you going to have? Oh, why did you do that? Open-ended question. If you're having a training session with a client, and well, how was your day? Where were you last night? What was the most important part of yada, yada, yada? Always the open-ended question. When you're having a conversation with children, please use an open-ended question, because they will answer yes, no, okay. But they can't when you ask them, where were you last night? They can't say yes. They have to tell you. When you ask them, when are you going to be home? They can't say okay. They have to tell you. So that's the best place to practice using the open-ended question with your children. No lie, because they're famous for giving you that one-word answer. There is one other word you can use. Sometimes how will work. How will work if you're trying to gather more information, but if you're trying to start a conversation, how was your day? Doesn't work, right? How did you like that? Doesn't work. It allows them to answer with a one word. But if you ask a follow-up, so how did you feel about that? Then they have to give you more information. Okay, so always focus on the open-ended question, frame them with the what, the where, the when, the why, sometimes the how, and practice this with anybody and everybody you come across all the time. Okay, the other one thing to remember in the probing stage is that by asking the questions, not only are you building that foundation of trust and gathering information and understanding problems and needs, but it also allows you to maintain control. And this is important. Whoever is asking the question is the one that's in control of the conversation. Okay, so if you find that you've lost control, what's probably happening is now the prospect is asking you questions. And you need to be careful because you've lost control of the consult at that point. So you need to circle back around with a question of your own, make sure it's open-ended, and get control back of the conversation. All right, so for example, they might ask you right off the bat, okay, well, that's great, but how much is it? Well, you don't want to get into that conversation about price until you can show them value. So if they ask you that, okay, well, no, that's great. That's a great question. I'm going to get to that. But in order to do that, I need to understand a little bit more about your goals. So can you tell me again what you meant by, and circle back into asking the question so you have control again. Because once they ask you that question, well, how much does it cost? All you can do is answer. Or if you do answer, it's not all you can do, is what you shouldn't do. If you do answer, well, it's this, then now what? You're stuck, right? So circle back around with a question of your own, make sure it's open-ended, and gain back control of the conversation. Whoever asks the last question is the one that's in control of the consult, and that needs to be you. Always needs to be you in this consultation. They will have time to ask questions, but that's at the end. Okay. Again, from a probing perspective, let's think back to your foundation. Remember, listening is key. When you're going through the probing stage of the discovery phase, you must listen, because what's not only important about asking the open-ended question, it's important to ask the open-ended follow-up question. All right? You want to make sure that you're gathering as much information as you can. And silence in this aspect is literally golden. All right? Silence is the moneymaker for you here. Silence and listening and understanding problems and understanding needs is where the sale is going to get made. All right, let's talk about some sample probing questions, all right? So what kinds of questions can you be asking your prospects? Number one, and a great one to start with, is tell me a little bit about yourself. Of course, that's not one of the words I just said, but tell me a little bit about yourself is open-ended. What have you done in the past to overcome whatever it is that they're here to help? You're here to help them with. Why are we having this discussion? Why are you here in the first place? Why do you feel you've been unsuccessful in the past? Okay, they're coming to you for a need. They're coming to you for a reason, whether to lose weight or to have a better relationship or to be a successful entrepreneur. They're coming to you for a reason. And more than likely, they've tried things in the past that haven't worked. You need to find out what they've been and why they feel those things haven't worked, why they've been unsuccessful in the past. This is a great one. And I always ask this question, and you should make sure that you always ask this question too. On a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to whatever? You're not going to be able to get results from anybody who's not committed to getting those results. So if you don't get an 8 or a 9 on this question, then the next question is, why do you say that? Why do you feel you're only at a 5 or a 6 on the commitment scale? You need to understand where their obstacles are, where their roadblocks are, where their objections might be. And you need to get them to that 8 or 9 or 10 before you continue the conversation. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. Person that's not committed is not going to make change. And you need to, and you want to see change. They need to see change. Okay, so what are some common pitfalls when asking questions? Number one, asking leading questions. Don't ask leading questions, right? They need to answer honestly. They need to answer from their own perspective, not yours. Too many closed-ended questions. Don't ask any closed-ended questions. I mean, unless it's truly a yes or no, like, are you ready to buy? Right? Don't ask closed-ended questions. Some folks tend to want to make sure you know how smart they are, and make sure you know what an expert they are, and make sure that you know how great they are. The person sitting in front of you doesn't care. All they care about is that they get to know you, they get to like you, they get to trust you, you understand their problems, you understand their needs, you're going to solve those problems for them and show them change, get them results. So stay away from asking questions that just aren't necessary. You want to be curious. You want to get the information out of people. Don't ever impose your values and beliefs, okay? This is about them, it's not about you. And don't give advice or judgmental opinions. Again, this is about them, not about you. You're going to sell them on your service, and in your service, you're going to give them all the tools and systems and programs that they need to be successful. Now's not the time to do that. Now's just the time to discover. Okay, so that is all the components of the build your foundation step and the probing stage of discovery step. Next week, we're going to get into all of the other components. Some books you might want to consider reading. Psycho-Cybernetics is a great visualization book. It's a little tough to read. Maxwell Maltz, this book's been around for years. I mean, years. But it's a great book about yourself. The Power of Body Language by Tanya Ryman. Again, body language, listening, enunciation, huge component of selling. And this is an excellent book to have. And then, of course, Think and Grow Rich. You need a good belief system for selling. You need to believe in yourself and the value of what you have to offer in order to be successful in sales. I will post these slides up in the Facebook group, so you'll have all of the slides and these resources as well. Okay, homework. Lesson number one, homework. Number one, visualize yourself as the professional salesperson, okay? Use your imagination theater. Go through the aspects of foundation building, rapport building, probing, practice all of that visually. See yourself as a salesperson. From now on, whenever you're in contact with a person, whether it be a client or a prospect or your children or somebody at the grocery store or whoever, establish rapport. Practice that rapport building step. Good listening skills. All right. You can't go wrong with just being a good listener in every aspect of your life. And smile. Just smile. Oh, one of the tidbits that Dick always liked to share, he was my sales mentor, always likes to share, is this concept of smiling changes as you grow older. When you're a baby, you smile like hundreds of times a day. You smile a lot when you're a baby. As you grow older, if you're a female, you smile about 60 to 100 times a day. I'm not getting the numbers right, but you smile more. When you're older and you're a male, on average, now I know this number, it's been studied, you smile 8 times a day, on average, 8 times a day. So make a conscious effort to smile more because it helps. It helps in every aspect of your life. Okay, I would like you to identify your specific probing questions. I gave you some samples. You need more. I would like for you to identify, based on the service that you're selling, what your specific probing questions are. List them out, and we're going to review them. You can either put them on the Facebook page or next week, or maybe the following week. We're going to review all of those. And then again, the open-ended question. Okay, wherever you engage with people, consciously begin using that open-ended question. It just will make you a better listener. It'll make you a better conversationalist. People will engage with you more. You're going to open up your sphere of influence by using that open-ended question more often than not. Especially kids. Do it with kids and see what happens. Okay, next lesson, we're going to continue on with the steps. We're going to go into the awareness component of discovery. We're going to go into the building the value component, and then offer the solution. Those are the final 3 steps of the change maker. And then we're going to get into some objection handling and what to do after they say yes to the sale. Okay, awesome. It is, I did that perfectly. Let's see who has questions. Just raise your hand and I'll unmute you if you have any questions. Gary, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you so you can answer. Anybody questions? Yes, Jennifer.
Not as much a question, but question I found is really did a lot of sales training at the gym where I work is also as part of it. See if the person, if their psychology is an introvert or an extrovert, because introvert means fact finder, rational person, because then you would use benefits that are fact-based or proof points versus if someone's more of an extrovert, really outgoing, that it's the emotional stories that don't connect with them. But if you try to throw emotional stories at someone, more complete fact finder, it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's mirroring the person in front of you. Yep. Understanding the type of person that you're with and mirroring their personality as well. Excellent. Thanks, Jennifer. Nobody else? Seriously? Now you guys are making me feel bad. No questions at all?
I do want to say echoing. Am I echoing and everybody hears? Yeah. Then I'm not going to talk.
Oh, Gary. Forrest, did you have a question?
Am I echoing?
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you, Camelia. Great presentation. That was really good foundational stuff. And what I got out of it the most, because we're right now teaching our team how to approach sales, and without a really strong foundation, it's hard to talk about. So what I took from it is, I'm going to be able to use a lot of that stuff for our team. And what I'm interested in the most going forward is how to overcome the objections.
Yeah.
That's the big thing for me. So I'm excited. So thank you, Camelia.
You're welcome. Now keep in mind 2 things. Number 1, what you just said about training your staff on selling, those foundational pieces are good regardless of whether your staff is selling or not, right? They need to understand those interpersonal skills and have those listening skills and the question asking skills regardless of whether they're selling. If they're with a client, those are components that they should always be aware of and have top of mind. It just makes them a better trainer, right? And then secondly, from an objection handling perspective, the one thing I want you to keep in mind for us, and we'll talk about this next week, is that your objections are going to be met during the sales process. If you follow the steps, especially the probing, right? If you do all the probing correctly and in depth and as well as it should be done, you will have no objections. Or you'll have all of the tools that you need to address the objections, right? Mm-hmm. If you get an objection, it means you didn't do the first part right or well enough, right? That's really important to remember. So when you're doing the sales consult, if you're not spending enough time on the probing and or the whole discovery components, you're going to have an objection. Okay? Keep that in mind. It's really important to understand. Right, because the biggest, and here we're going into objection handling already. The biggest thing you're going to get typically is price, right? So you didn't show value. So you didn't show them that they had a problem enough. You didn't show them their need. You didn't probe deep enough to show them the value of what you're offering.
Got it.
And that's why they object to price.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why we stopped this first section at that probing component, because it is the foundation piece that you need to practice a lot and get really good at, so you don't have to do objection handling.
Yeah.
That happens a lot with, oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Without echoing? So that happens a lot with when Camelia was talking about the commitment of level 1 to 10, right? So you get that a lot if that person's not committed at a higher level too. Oh, wait, let me talk for really quick, 1 second. And I know this is not a coaching program, so I'm not going to go on all about all of this. I mean, I have a gazillion notes here, but one thing, I know ChangeMaker very well, obviously. But one thing that is super intriguing to me about ChangeMaker is that it's based on facts and research, not theory. So that means that it works over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not just like this worked this one time and it's theoretical. It works over and over again because it's a system, a strategic system. And Camelia is going to go into, I know she went over some of the probing questions. Those probing questions are very strategically put in place. And the things that she's going to go over next week are strategically put in place the way they are. The way that the words are specifically put in place, because those are the way that it works.
Yeah, it's a system. It's based upon the psychology of selling. What you need to do, these steps are how people's minds think in terms of making a buying decision, right? And like I mentioned when we first started, my sales mentor, Dick Chilton, spent years in the sales world, years. And he's actually part of the MPE team that developed, I don't know if many of you have heard of the autocloser, but he developed the sales system for MPE, and we've taken that and modified it to fit a more broader audience. But, you know, I had $1 million business, and I wouldn't have had $1 million business if I didn't follow the sales system that I'm teaching you here today. I mean, it works. It definitely works. You have to trust in it, right? You have to do the practice. And as Gary likes to say, you got to do the work, right? You got to do the work.
It's all sets and reps, right? Sets and reps. That's how you get better. Community said practice, 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 right? That's how you get better with everything. Sets and reps. The more you do, the better you get.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions that anybody would like to ask or address? Yes, Sandy.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that the book from Dr. Maltz, you can get that on YouTube. So you don't have to buy it. You can actually listen to the whole video from him, and it's really good stuff to listen to.
Awesome. Yeah. Excellent. That's a great, great book. It took me a long time to get through it. I'm not going to lie, but it's a really good book.
Yeah, but it's something, yeah, I mean, you can listen to it over and over again. You keep getting something out of it. It's just really good stuff.
That's exactly true. Thanks, Sandy. Okay. Everybody good? All right. We'll continue with ChangeMaker next week. However, in the meantime, make sure that your financial worksheets are being updated, and Gary and I are going to take a look at those. Emma, you got yours. We'll put yours up there. Jennifer, you said yours is done. Forrest and Anthony, we got some work to do on yours just to get it through the rest of the year. Go ahead, Gary.
No, so this is where Camille and I do the 3-second thing. I was right.
This, you know, when you're going like this is go ahead, speak.
If it's not complete, and I didn't look at it today. Jen, is yours totally complete?
Oh, hold on.
Oh, sorry. I have it through July. I haven't done the budgeting for my revenue because I can plug that in. It'll kind of be guesswork, but yeah, pretty much done.
And the home one's complete too, right? I didn't.
The home one is yeah, that's a different animal because yeah.
Your husband and I totally get it. So one thing though, guys, that if the break even on a home one is an important one, especially for Forrest and Anthony, because you guys are in business together. Having your home one complete is super important so that we can reverse engineer everything so that we know exactly what's going on. And there's a lot missing from here, guys. We need to go over that stuff. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But having that personal one, Emma, and you said that you're just going to upload yours, right, hon? Sweet.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
All right, crew. Have a good week.
See
All
you.
right. Thank you.
If you have any questions.
All right. We'll do. Thank you, guys.
Bye.